My name is Madison, and today I am going to talk about how I was diagnosed with breast cancer at age 22. So, I first just want to say that I have no family history of breast cancer. I have no pre-existing conditions, no illnesses. I've never even had the flu, and I do not have any genetic mutations. But on August 4th of 2020, I was diagnosed with stage 1 invasive ductal carcinoma. So it all started back sometime probably around January or February of 2020. I must have been showering or something. I don't even remember the first time that I felt the lump because it was that insignificant, but I felt a small pea-sized lump on the outside of my left breast. It just popped up one day. I didn't know what it was. I had never had lumps in my breast. I felt it and I thought, oh, that's strange. And then by the time I'd get out of the shower or go on about my day, I'd forget about it and I'd forget to tell people. I think the next person who I told and who found out was my boyfriend, actually. I don't remember if he felt it for himself or if I showed him. I was like, oh, hey, by the way, look at this, feel this. It's kind of weird to say, but yeah, he was the next person who felt it, and I'll never forget his face when he felt it. He jerked his hand back and he was like, ew, what is that? Why is that there? And I was laughing because I was like, I don't know, it's probably nothing. It's just this weird little lump. And he was like, Madison, you need to get that checked out. And I literally laughed him off, and I, was just kind of like, Chris, it's fine. What could it be? It's not a big deal. And he was like, no, that doesn't feel right. I don't like that. Can you please go get that checked out? And I was like, yeah, I'll get it checked out. It's fine. And then this was either right after or right before COVID happened. And I did not want to go to a doctor's office. I did not want to be in a medical setting unless I absolutely had to be. We didn't know anything about the virus. This was right when the world shut down, was when I found this lump. And I, again, not thinking anything of it, just felt fine waiting a few months until things kind of calmed down before I decided what to do. I was also kind of watching it to see if it went away when my period came, or if it was coming and going, just trying to get a sense of what might be going on. And I will say, when I googled all my symptoms, it was pretty adamant that I did not have cancer because it was a small, hard, movable, painless lump. Those were kind of all of the signs of, oh, it's nothing. It's nothing serious. It's cancer if it's soft, or if it sticks to the wall of the chest when you move it, or whatever, when you try to move it. And it's a bunch of bullshit. Don't believe Google. Go see a doctor. Because yeah, mine fit all the check boxes for nothing very serious. So I wasn't concerned. Like I said, no family history. Why would I have thought anything? So in January of 2020, I had just moved to Austin, Texas from Houston, and I needed to go see a new doctor to get established with my insurance, with a new primary care doctor, and then also to talk to someone about the lump and I think another issue or something I was having. And so I went to see my new doctor, and she was a lovely young female doctor. Thank God for her, because I have heard horror stories of people my age going to tell a doctor that they felt a lump and they just laugh them off and they send them on out of their office, and the girls never do anything about it, or they eventually have to go get a second opinion, and it turns out that it was cancer. But luckily, my doctor, she felt the lump and she asked me some questions and said, you're young, you're healthy, I don't know, there's no reason to believe that this is anything really other than a cyst, but let's make sure, let's be cautious, and let's send you to get an ultrasound. And I was like, okay. So I went and got the ultrasound, and Thank God for this doctor too, because he really took his time. He was looking at it and he didn't like what he was seeing, I guess, because he explained to me why it couldn't be a cyst. I don't remember the exact technical terms, but basically there wasn't like a channel or something that went up to the skin, which meant that it was not a cyst. He said it could be a fibroadenoma, and that's what he thought it was, but he said, and his words were something like, but it's not fitting all of my boxes. Like it's not, I'm not comfortable just calling it that and having you come back in 6 months. Like I want to make sure that this is nothing. So he said, you have two options. You can either come back in 2 weeks for a biopsy, or you can go straight to a breast surgeon and have it surgically removed, and you can go from there. And I was like, I don't want to have surgery, I'll just do the biopsy, whatever. He was like, okay, good choice, I agree with that. He was like, alright, so back in 2 weeks. I was moving at the time. I'll push back a couple weeks. So 4 weeks from when I got the ultrasound, I went and got the biopsy. Biopsy was kind of terrifying, not because it was painful or anything, just because it was kind of intense. And I don't think I was really mentally and emotionally prepared for it. I think I was brushing all of this off so much, and I wasn't taking it seriously, and I didn't think anything was wrong, and then suddenly I'm being poked and prodded and, having to undergo this just kind of intimidating little procedure. Some women say that the procedure hurts. It didn't hurt for me, it was just really uncomfortable because he was like having to press, and I apparently had a really stubborn tumor that was kept moving while they were trying to get the tissue samples, so they had to kind of like, it took longer for mine to be done. I can go into that in another video what the biopsy's like, but yeah, it was kind of intense. I don't know if it hit me then. I never ever thought cancer. Until this point, I never thought the word cancer in my mind. Just so we're clear. But so I, went home that day and was just really thankful that it was over. And 2 days later, I woke up and I was kind of running late for work, realized I had missed a call from my doctor, thought, oh, I'll just call her back in the car on my way to work, thinking that, I was anxious to know the results because I was just kind of ready to check this off and be done with it and know what it was, know what to do next. I was not prepared for any kind of bad news at all. I remember that day very vividly for some things, and other things I can't even really remember like the details. It's just kind of like really hazy. But I called my doctor back in the car, and I don't remember specifically like what she said completely. I just remember words. I remember the first word out of her mouth when I realized that something was not right when I realized what it was when she said something carcinoma. I was like, oh, that's cancer. Like in my head I was like, oh, cancer, oh my god. And I just kind of shut down after that. I was driving and I just remember I was like gripping the steering wheel, and it was suddenly like my life was a movie, and I felt like I was looking down on myself, and I was just like trying to get to the nearest parking lot to pull into. Luckily I did. And I was just listening, and I was just so confused. Like I think I had the thought run through my head of, did they mix up my results with someone else? Like what, well, how, okay, there's cancer cells, okay, so I guess I had cancer. And then she was saying things like, stage 1, you caught it early, you did everything right, you came in, and you should just be so proud of yourself that you came in and we caught this early. Like, you're young, you're healthy, you'll be fine, you just need to go get this checked out, and you're lucky you caught this early. And I'm just sitting there like, okay, so like what's next? And she told me, she said I'll have to meet with a breast surgeon, and I'm like, okay. She said she'll refer me, call her if I need anything, and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, I need to call my boss because I can't go to work. She's like, oh yeah, okay. So, I call my boss, and she was the first person that I told ever about it, and I just was crying and told her I didn't tell you, but I went and got this biopsy done, and I just got the results, and I have breast cancer. And she was like, oh my god, and I'm like sobbing, and I'm like, yeah. I'm not gonna go to work today. She's like, yeah, okay. Call my boyfriend. He had to come get me. He had to come pick me up. I left my car in the parking lot like all day and went back and got it later because I couldn't drive. I was having a really bad panic attack. I was obviously very upset, very distraught at that point. And then I kind of like bounced into this weird denial, and I was doing everything I could to distract myself. I was kind of pretending it wasn't happening. And then I think 2 days later, I went and saw my breast surgeon for the first appointment. So that was next. So I went and saw my breast surgeon, and that was when everything actually hit me, I think. When it really felt real. She was sitting there talking about, these genetic mutations, and if I have a certain kind, I'll need a double mastectomy, and I'm so young, and are you sure there's no family history? And I'm sitting there like, no, there's no family history of breast cancer. And she's like, okay, and then, she's like, you could potentially, if you have this gene, you could pass it on to your kids, and you're gonna have surgery, and you might have to do chemo, and we're gonna check your genetics, and we're gonna test your lymph nodes. And then they looked, and like one of them looks kind of suspicious. We need to biopsy it right now. And I was like, oh my god. So yeah, they went ahead and tested one of my lymph nodes, and they're in the office, and sent that off to pathology or wherever to look and see if there was anything suspicious or if they found cancerous cells. I wound up not seeing that breast surgeon again that I saw for that first appointment. I went ahead and sought care at MD Anderson in Houston because that's where I'm from, that's where my family is. All of my family wanted me to go there. I was fine with going there. I didn't really like my first breast surgeon that I saw. So yeah, I went and got all of my testing done there, and my surgery was there, and all of that. I had a lumpectomy on September 29th, which means that they just took the tumor out of my body. Yeah, that's where I'm at in treatment. I have recovered from surgery, and now I'm kind of moving into the next phase. Specifics on my diagnosis are that I have stage 1 invasive ductal carcinoma. It is ER and PR positive, which means estrogen receptor and progesterone receptor positive. That just means that my cancer responds to those hormones. I am HER2 negative. I'm grade 2, intermediate grade, which means that the cells of my cancer are not the most normal and they're not the most abnormal. It's from 1 to 3. I do not have the BRCA gene. I had a variance of unknown significance on my RAD50 gene, which just kind of doesn't really mean anything. They don't know what my mutation on that gene means. I had the tumor removed. It was 11 millimeters, so 1.1 centimeters. And they also removed 5 of my sentinel lymph nodes, which are just like the lymph nodes that my breast like immediately drains to. And one of those lymph nodes came back with 2 microscopic spots of cancer cells, the biggest being only 0.4 millimeters. And they had not traveled outside of the lymph nodes, so that's good. My lumpectomy, the surgery, came back with negative margins. I only had 1 surgery and it was done. I have been healing pretty well. They only had to make 1 incision with me too, which was very nice, and there was very minimal reconstruction that had to happen, so really lucky about that. And I have almost my full range of motion back. I still can't do really any heavy lifting for quite a while, but I am at the stage where I have gotten my Oncotype test results back, which just tests the genetics of my tumor. Not every woman who has breast cancer qualifies for this kind of test. It's really only done on pretty much like stage 1, early stage cancers, and especially I think if you're ER, PR positive, HER2 negative, it kind of just gives you your chance of recurrence, so you can decide whether or not chemotherapy is more beneficial to you. My score was 14, kind of in the gray area. I'm still deciding whether or not to do chemo because it's kind of more preventative. In my situation, some women have to have chemo before they even have surgery, some have to have it after, especially if you have a very high score. Mine is not the lowest it could be, but it's also not the highest. So yeah, it's been a really, really tough decision. Besides the diagnosis, I would say this decision has been the hardest part so far of having cancer at 22, because yeah, I could make a whole other video on that, and I still haven't decided. I'm not looking for anyone to kind of sway my opinion in the comments. I have done tons and tons of research. I have talked to many cancer survivors. I'm going to do what's best for me. I'm going to make the decision for myself with help of my doctors, and you know, I'm just going to make sure that I am the one who made that decision and I'm at peace with it, and that'll be that. So I'm not looking for anyone to tell me that I have to do it, or I don't need to do it, or anything like that. You know, I will make the decision when I do, with the information that I have taken many hours to gather and collect. So, but if I do not need chemo, I'll be going straight into radiation, and then I will have hormone therapy, which will be specifically a shot once a month to suppress my ovaries, and then an aromatase inhibitor along with that, and that will be for the next 5, maybe more than that, years. So every case of breast cancer is different, and that's important to know. Just because someone says they have breast cancer doesn't mean that they're gonna die, doesn't mean that, you know, they're gonna have to have a mastectomy. It's like, it's so dependent on so many different factors. Every woman's cancer looks different. It's very personal, it's very specific to them. So don't cast judgment on someone who maybe did go through chemo and maybe didn't, someone who got single or double mastectomy, someone who just got a lumpectomy. It depends on many factors that the doctors and that person decides together, or what they're told by the doctors they need to do. It varies. Thankfully there's a lot of options we have today with modern medicine. So I just want to say that I am more than happy to share anything about my diagnosis, about my journey with cancer. I am going to be hopefully uploading a lot more videos kind of talking about specific parts of the journey, because one thing that I really wanted and needed when I first was diagnosed was to see other girls, not like 30 and up going through this, but people like under 25 going through this. Because when you have just graduated college and kids are not even close to a thought in your mind, and you're not married, and you're dating, and you know, you're just starting your career, and you're just now becoming an independent person, cancer affects you very differently than it does when you're married and have kids. Like, it is a whole other realm. One is not worse than the other, one is not, you know, we don't necessarily need different things in support, but it's just, it was really hard to talk about some of the specific problems that I was having with people who were married with kids, you know. It's just different. So one thing that I want to do is I want to put this out there so that if there is any other 22, 21, 23, 24-year-old who just got diagnosed and is like, what the heck, and goes into YouTube like me and types in 22-year-old with breast cancer, they will hopefully find videos that will help them get through it. If you have to join this dreaded cancer club and you were just diagnosed with breast cancer, I just want you to know that it will be okay. Like, you are a lot braver than you think, and I know that might be the worst thing in the world to hear right now, and you don't even want to believe that. You don't want any of this to be happening. Trust me, it's not fair. You have a right to be angry, you have a right to be sad. Whatever you're feeling is valid, but just know that there are people here for you, and leaning on people for support will be the best thing you can do for yourself. So if you need to lean on these videos, if you need to go, you know, reach out to me on other social media platforms, you can check out my blog. It's momentswithmadison.com. I've written a lot about my perspective going through all of this. There's information in their support groups, breastcancer.org. There's communities on there. They have a discussion board where tons of people are always talking about their personal stories, and just know that you're not alone. And no matter how alien you might feel from this diagnosis, you will be surprised the amount of women that you are going to meet who are going through it too, who will make you feel inspired, who will give you hope, who will show you that you can get through this. So yeah, that's my story with how I found out that I had cancer. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please like and comment on anything else that you might want to see from me, anything you have questions about, anything I can explain further. I'll be uploading more videos kind of going into details about my treatment process and just kind of my cancer journey in general. But yeah, please subscribe. Also check out my other social media accounts. I have Twitter, Instagram, and more specifically my blog. It's called momentswithmadison.com, and I write a lot on there. Writing has been very cathartic for me throughout this whole process, so I have shared a lot more, and that's kind of a more first-person insight onto what it's like to go through cancer at this age. So if you want to check that out, I would be really grateful. I also have a post on there about how to do a self-breast exam, which is extremely important. Ladies, please, every month, check your breast. I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you have family history. Please, please, please check and feel and make sure that nothing is off or weird or abnormal. And if it is, go see your doctor. Don't panic. Don't automatically assume it's cancer, because it's probably not, but it's better to catch these things early rather than later. And you are your biggest advocate. You know when something is wrong. If your doctors aren't taking you seriously, go see someone else. Get a second opinion. Trust their opinion, trust their advice, but if you really deep down feel like something's wrong, push for more testing. Make certain that it's nothing. You know yourself better than anyone. I don't even want to think about where I would be if I had not gone to the doctor that I did and gotten the test that I did and hadn't taken this seriously, because who knows where I'd be. So, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.